All right. Here we are, July 12th, 2024. It's National Collector Car Appreciation Day. Thought you'd want to know that. Welcome, everyone. At the heart of the matter, the Charitable Roundtable is about service. We serve, and we have a heart for service, and that's the connection that brings us together here, the second Friday each month. It's been a terrific journey working with all of you over the past couple of years, and I've really enjoyed being an MC this year, and I think last year, part of the year too. I want to welcome everyone, and I appreciate your making the commitment to investing your time here today. That's there's a story that I like to tell. I think I'm just going to go ahead and share it with you. When my son Matt was about 5 years old, I decided to take him to a funeral. I've got a funeral this afternoon that I'm going to, but I decided to take Matt to a funeral, and he was 5 years old, and I thought it was time for him to learn a bit about that part of life. We got to the church, and in the church was a vestibule, and the vestibule was a stand with pamphlets on it. I took one of the pamphlets, I put a quarter in the tin box that was there, and I waited, and the minister came, and he said, "This would be the service," and he told us how it would all go, and we had the service. I gave the eulogy, and afterwards the minister said that because we came from out of town, it was their custom to defray our travel expenses. And so we went back to the vestibule. He took the tin box off the magazine rack, and he poured out the contents into my hands, and out rolled a single quarter. And my 5-year-old son looked up at me and he said, "You know, Papa, if you had put, you'd have gotten more out of it." And extemporaneously, that story just seemed like a good one to share with this group, because this is a group that puts their heart, soul, and firepower into it, and I think that's one of the reasons that we are involved and that we stay involved with charitable organizations and the service of others, because man, that's where happiness comes from. Happiness is something that ensues, and it ensues from service to others. So that's a little bit of the context of the Charitable Roundtable. And here we meet on Zoom. We meet the second Friday each month. We have a program that is intended to be uplifting and beneficial. We make connections with one another. One of my favorite aspects of the way that we meet is we presume positive intent, and something that has been a big benefit to me over my lifetime and my career is the idea of presuming positive intent, expecting the best. And you know what? Normally that's what happens. That has been my experience. We expect the best, and that's what we get. And then, I think we expect to give our best. So I very much appreciate everyone here. If you would, as I just saw Mary drop her contact information into the chat, let's go ahead and hear from everyone in the chat. If you would put your name, the organization you work with, are you a charitable organization, or are you a friend of the Roundtable, and your contact information, and then that will all be available at the end of the meeting. One of the great things about this organization is making those one-to-one connections and multiplying the good that we do by that idea that when two people come to a meeting that each have an idea, that they each leave with two ideas. That can happen here, and it does, and it's a gold mine. So with that, I guess at this point it's time to turn over the program to the program. And I'm going to turn it over to Mary Jenkins at this time for an introduction of our program. Does that sound good? Take it away,
Sure.
Mary.
Thank you, Brian. So, hello, everyone. I am Mary Jenkins, and so I'm so excited to be here, and I'm excited to see several of you again and new faces. The Charitable Roundtable is a special place where people that are involved with the nonprofits can come and learn, as well as people that are supporters. So, if someone volunteers for a nonprofit, is on the board of a nonprofit, is the founder of a nonprofit, works for a nonprofit, doesn't matter their relation, they are welcome in this place. And this is an opportunity for people to get tangible information and lessons to be able to do something new. And so we didn't have the opportunity to for everyone to introduce themselves because we ask that you put your information into the chat. Usually we go around and let everyone introduce themselves, but there is a reason that we didn't do that on today, and it is because of today's message. Today's message is so very important for not just nonprofits, but also for for-profits. And so we want to make certain that we give ample time to hear the information from our guest speaker, because our guest speaker in his own right is amazing when it comes to helping people to share their messages, to network with others, and is doing amazing things. And so at this point, I want to go ahead and pass on the program to none other than Mr. Frank Agan, who is the head of AmSpirit, as well as a podcaster, a networker, an amazing individual. And if you have not had the chance to get to know him for yourself, you're missing out. He is someone to get to know. So it is all on you, Frank.
That's a hell of a lot of pressure, Mary. You know, I almost interrupted Brian and say, shouldn't we be introducing people? And then I realized, okay, yeah, that's right. We talked about that. We weren't going to do that this go around. How silly of me. Anyhow, welcome. Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about messaging today, 8-second messaging. Just quickly, let me give you a little background on myself. Name is Frank Agan. I run an organization called AmSpirit Business Connections. It's a for-profit organization, and we help entrepreneurs, sales reps, and professionals get more referrals. Plain and simple. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I moved to Columbus, Ohio almost 40 years ago to go to law school. I have a law degree. I have an MBA. Got a degree from the Ohio State University. Started my career in public accounting. I was a tax consultant. It was a great job. It was a great pay. It was great everything. I just didn't want to do taxes for the rest of my life. Thank you for spotlighting me. I just didn't want to do taxes for the rest of my life. So I left and went into private practice. And when I went into private practice, a funny thing happened. And the funny thing was that nothing happened. I had no idea how to get clients, none. And it's very complicated for an attorney because you're not really supposed to be calling people. You're not supposed to be doing all the traditional sales sorts of things that they tell you to do. You need to sit and wait for the phone to ring. And it wasn't ringing. So I had lunch one day with a friend of mine who was an attorney, and she took a different path out of law school. She started her own firm. And so I asked her, it was going well. I said, how do I get this? How do I get how can I create a firm that's doing well? And she said, why don't you get into a tips club or a leads group? Well, I really had no idea what she was talking about. But through a couple of introductions, she introduced me to an organization that was based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that was creating these weekly meetings of entrepreneurs, sales reps, professionals that got together, learned about each other, and exchanged referrals. Actually, that's where I met Tony Bonina all those years ago. It was an organization called Network Professionals. Long story short, I had an opportunity to buy Network Professionals, and this is back in the early 2000s. I rebranded it as AmSpirit Business Connections, and quit practicing law. I was going to be focused on becoming what I call a student of networking, understanding why networking worked, why it didn't work, understanding messaging and why some messages were better than others. So I'm always on the hunt for new information about networking, always looking to not just become better myself, but to share that information out. I've written a number of books on networking. I have a podcast, as Mary's indicated. I just recorded my 740th episode. So it's what I'm about, helping small businesses. I am not a not-for-profit. It is a for-profit business. But about 10 years ago, I had the notion of I guess how it all came about is I've always been very involved in the community, and part of that involvement involved my kids and being at their school and helping out. And as they were moving through high school, I was kind of running out of runway, if you will, of things to work on. My kids aren't in school. It's kind of creepy for me to be around school. What am I going to do? And I just decided, I don't know what not-for-profit to get involved with. Why don't I use my superpowers of connecting people and helping people get more out of their network and try to apply it to the not-for-profit space? From that, the Charitable Roundtable was born. That was January of 2015. So we're almost coming up on 10 years. So that's my story. That's my journey. That somewhat qualifies me to talk today. One thing I want to share out, and I'll get this out to anybody who's listed on the charitable roundtable distribution. I'm doing a program on the 25th of July at 2 p.m. It'll be on Zoom. It's going to be a live interview. I'll actually be recording it. I'm going to be interviewing Bob Berg, who wrote a book called The Go-Giver, which in part is the inspiration for the Charitable Roundtable. Jeff West, who wrote a book called Sales Wise, and a wonderful woman, Kim Angeli, who is in the business relationship space as well. It's open to anybody. I will get the link out. You can, please come in. The more, the merrier. They're going to share and be open for Q&A, and I'm going to take advantage of that to share out on my podcast later. But that's not why you're here. We're here to talk about 8-second messaging. And in today's world, we really only have 8 seconds to get somebody's attention, if you stop and think about it. I don't know if people, how people occupy their time. I occupy my time driving, certainly listening to podcasts, and I will go home, feed the dog, sit at the counter, turn on the TV, and I'll put on YouTube. And if I see that a program is going to go an hour, I don't have an hour, right? I like short videos. I want to kind of get to the point. I want to learn, and and maybe it's always been this way. We don't have a long attention span. In fact, I just recorded an episode on my podcast, research out there talking about people's minds wandering. And they have determined that that's just part of being human. Our minds wander. We have lots of things in our lives. We're sitting here you're talking to somebody, and somebody's talking to you, and you're thinking about, oh geez, I need to call the cable company, or I need to get toilet paper, or I need to do this, or what else is going on. I wonder what time it is. And it's not necessarily rude. It's just how our minds work. And essentially, that's how it works in the real world, is that people don't have a huge attention span. I have 3 kids, ages 28, 27, and 25 at this point. I don't know that I've been successful with a whole lot. I was successful at raising my kids. So, but at any rate, my kids were into soccer. They started playing soccer at the age of 3, and they all continue to play soccer. They played all the way through college, and they're playing in adult leagues, and they love the game. But I remember when they were younger and they got onto teams where playing time was not a guarantee. In the early rec days, everybody kind of played the same amount. When you got up into a more competitive environment, you had to earn your playing time. And I always told my kids is that every minute is an audition for the next minute. When you get out on the field, you need to audition for that very, very next minute. And that's pretty much the same with respect to our messaging. Is the purpose of the 8 seconds is to really get someone drawn into what you're about. When I talk about 8-second messaging, I'm not talking about all those subsequent conversations that you have with people. I know Mary. I've known Mary a long time. Mary can certainly share her 8-second message with me at any point in time, and I will certainly listen. But we're kind of beyond that because we've talked hundreds of times in the years that we've known each other. And it's the same thing with respect to you and the people that you know. So what we're going to talk about today is not really the ongoing message. That's an entirely different conversation and something I'm happy to address at some point in time at the Charitable Roundtable. And I do various programs from time to time on Zoom that are open. I talk about messaging and kind of the subsequent messaging. But today we're going to talk about the 8-second message, right? That first introduction when you're meeting somebody for the first time. Mary, what do you do? Tony, what are you all about? And you have 8 seconds then to kind of get a message across. So let's just talk about some guidelines with respect to those 8-second messages, right? It's got to be 20 words or less. You know, and really, if you stop and think about it, I haven't done the math, but it really comes down to the syllables, right? Because you can have a word. Frank is a one syllable name. Patricia is what, 2 or 3. You know, so it really comes down to syllables, but generally speaking, a great guideline is 20 words or less. And so if you're going to have that 8-second message, it needs to be about 8 words or less. If one of your words is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you know what, you might have to stop at 12. I don't know. But guideline, 12 words or less. And most people can get their 8 seconds done in 20 words or less. Now, I do want to share, and that's always a better way to kind of go about it, with 20 words or less as opposed to 8 seconds. Doesn't have to be precisely 8 seconds. If it's 7.5, you're okay. You know what? If it's 8.5, you're okay. If you're getting to 12, you probably have a problem. You're probably not going to keep somebody's attention. So 12 words or less. In that messaging, you need to explain how you add value. That's an important aspect, right? How do you add value? What are you doing? What's the value you're bringing to the world? And a lot of times when I do this presentation, it's to business people, but I will tell you, not-for-profits or businesses. It's all the same. All the same rules apply. Somebody's just not getting rich is really what it boils down to. That's the difference. But in your 8 seconds, your 20 words, you need to explain how to add value. I've got an example here. Somebody's saying, I'm an award-winning employment attorney. That doesn't explain how they add value. It just shares what they do. I don't know what the award is. Maybe that matters. It doesn't matter, but they're an employment attorney. It doesn't really talk about the value they bring. But when that same person changes it up and says, I help small businesses minimize the legal risks associated with having employees, that's the value that they bring. So if you're talking to somebody who has employees, worried about every turn being sued for this or that, okay, I'm tuned in. I've given you 8 seconds. I'm intrigued. You get more time, right? Just like my kids playing soccer. You have a great minute out there playing really hard, you're going to get more time. If the minute you give in soccer isn't great, you're probably going to be back on the bench. If your 8 seconds is, I'm an award-winning employment attorney, the response to that's going to be, ho hum, I've tuned you out. So you have to find the value that you have to offer. I will share with people here watching, the people who are watching the recording, I'll make the slides available. So don't feel like you need to be taking pictures or hustling to get every word down. I will make these slides available by distributing them out. We take this recording, we put it on YouTube, and I can put links to I can put links to the materials in those comments, so you can have access to them. Third thing, speak as your listener does, right? Speak, you stop and think about it. And I talk about this all the time in the business world. People try to speak in jargon. They try to sound really cool. They come up with words and phrases almost like it's advertising speak. The gasoline companies, we have this special additive that nobody can explain, knows what it is, but it sounds cool, so you're going to put it in your car. And I talk to people all the time who have these commercials, and they sound really neat. And I say, yeah, that sounds great, but people don't know what you're talking about. and you really need to rethink it. And they might say to me, well, Frank, it sounds really good and I really worked on it. And I'm really invested in it. And that's great, but it doesn't matter what you're invested in. It's what other people are invested in. Are they going to be willing to give you more than just 8 seconds? So here's an example. I help you speak in a manner that ignites and excites. Well, people don't necessarily use the words ignite and excites. But they might say, I help you speak in a manner that consistently and clearly puts your point across. Again, there's the value. Speaking, sharing out what the value is, speaking in terms that people tend to understand. Clearly get your point across. Oh, I get that. I don't know what excite means. I don't know what ignite means, at least not in the professional or the public speaking sense. Now, the person saying, I help you speak in a manner that ignites and excites, they may totally know what that means. But if you're speaking, it doesn't matter what you know it means. What matters is what you get across to the other person. That's how you get your additional time. That's how you take your 8 seconds and get additional seconds, whether it's another 8 seconds, maybe it's a minute, maybe it's somebody pulling up a chair and saying, Tony, I need to know more. Tell me all about it. And I think we all have been in those situations where we hit that chord with somebody, and they're all of a sudden just buying into, they really want to know. I had this conversation yesterday talking about my business and our franchise opportunity. Person's just like, okay, stop, time out. I really need to understand. And I literally had 20 minutes of this guy's undivided attention, taking notes, so on and so forth, right? Talking in terms that he understood, using language that was very clear to him. All right. Fourth guideline, practice, practice, practice. I see so many people who will come up with an 8-second message or any sort of messaging, and it's like it's kind of off the cuff. Or they might just put themselves on the spot. I'm going to this event. I know somebody's going to ask me what I do, and I'll just figure it out then and see what comes out of my mouth and just hope for the best. I tell people don't do that. We prepare. I remember back in 7th, 8th grade, there were the kids who felt like they could just wing it, right? Kind of BS the teacher. And the teacher, right? The teacher probably knew that you were BSing it or they were BSing it, and was going to just put up with it because, you know what, they're just a teacher and they just can't wait till 3:30 anyways, like the kids. But in the business world, it doesn't work that way. In the business world, people are very in tune to, are you sharing how you're adding value? Are you talking in a way that I understand? Are you confident in what you have to say? And that all comes through practice. Just, continue to practice. Again, we're talking 20 words or less. You can easily, even with a Sharpie, fit that all on an index card, write it out 4 or 5 times, have one in your car, have one on the mirror as you get ready in the morning. In your notebook. It's a very simple thing just to kind of look at it from time to time. So practice is really important. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through 5 templates to help introduce yourself in 20 words or less. Gets us to 8 seconds, if you will. Now, if you remember, I remember as a kid, kids these days, I think many of us are a little older. I remember as a kid, we would ride around in the car going on long trips. We didn't have iPads. We didn't have, I remember once that we made an attempt at having a TV in there with an antenna and just picking up different stations that we traveled from northern Michigan to Chicago. That didn't really work well. You had to occupy yourselves. And one of the things we had to occupy ourselves was these things called Mad Libs, these books where you would go through, there'd be a sentence and you needed to provide a noun or a verb or whatever, and then someone would write those in and then read the phrase. And it was always funny because that's where you'd have a noun in the sentence, but it doesn't all fit. It was a lot of fun. So it's kind of in that same spirit that these templates come from. So here's template 1 that you can use. And again, I'll provide these out when we're done, so don't feel like you need to. I'm going to go through these things. I won't go through terribly fast. But at the end, I'll have them all on screen, all the templates on screen, because what we want to try and do is work with each other. If you're up for it, and help you put together a 20, a 20-word message, 8-second message. So the first template, I help indicate who that target audience is. Well, who do you serve? Who do you serve? Mary Jenkins, she serves people who are in active cancer treatment. Okay. I help do, and then what's the statement of need? Or what's the opportunity with that? And then quickly, through whatever the differentiator is, what's that thing that separates you from competitors? Or maybe that competitor is the status quo of doing nothing. So it's just simple. You're, adding the target audience, statement of need or opportunity, and then inserting a differentiator. I have examples for each of these. I help professionals introduce, network, and promote themselves in 20 words or less. It pretty much says it. So imagine yourself at a networking event. You're going up to somebody, shake their hands. Geez, Bill, what do you do? I help professionals introduce network, and promote themselves in 20 words or less. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Again, this is just an introductory 8 seconds. It's not kind of the ongoing thing. It's not me meeting Mary Jenkins for the umpteenth time and her telling me, I help people in active cancer treatment, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get it. We're beyond that now. Let's move on to other substantive conversations. Example number 2. I help target audience do a statement of need plus a statement of benefit. All right. So here's the example. Excuse me. I help job hunters tell irresistible brand stories that their listeners remember and respond to. I'm going to go back real quick. Again, target audience, job hunters, right? That's the target audience. Statement of need, benefit, statement of benefit, right? Statement of need, well, the statement of, I guess the statement of need is, statement of need is irresistible brand stories. And then the tail end of that, the benefit is so that listeners remember and respond to. Again, simple things. You just need to think through and put the little components in. Template 3, I target audience. And I think we all should know who our target audience is, to something they want plus the differentiator. All right. So we move on. I connect people to new opportunities using the perfect introductions in 20 words or less. Again, just a very simple little statement. I haven't counted the words on all of these. I've counted the words on the one that I did for myself. Template 4, I transform, translate, convert a problem into something aspirational, right? I make complicated ideas easy for anyone to understand and communicate. Again, it doesn't really explain things, but it's kind of that hook to get people interested. In 20 words, you're not going to be able to go into detail as to all the things that you do. A realtor may not be able to, nobody can. I used to practice law. It's very complicated, the types of things, a lot of things I couldn't explain in 200 words, but all this 20 words, all these 20 words are for is to get people to buy in. Okay. How do you make complicated ideas easy for people to understand? I need to know more about what that's about. 5th template, I help target audience fix their problem, right? I help people with something to say that they struggle to say. Pretty simple. So this is the one I will use from time to time. We help small businesses and professionals connect to the people, information, and opportunities that drive success. I haven't really explained my business. My business is way more complicated than that. Not terribly complicated, but in 20 words, actually, I've done it in 16. That's what the footnote 16 is there. But what I've done is I've teased out information that is going to encourage people, hopefully get people to lean in and say, huh, tell me more. I want to know more. You know, all 20 words or less, around 8 seconds. So the source material for this, I stumbled across this article in Tech Latino, in case you're not a subscriber. I'm not either. I just happened to be online and I came across this article. I'm like, this is a really neat article. And I will share this out so you can have the link. I tested it this morning. The article is still there if you want to read the whole article. It's a very good article, but it talks about all these things. I did want to share that out though, because obviously the program I'm giving, but a lot of the information behind this, it comes from that article, and they certainly deserve credit. You might want to subscribe, Tech Latino. I mean, it might be for you. Who knows? All right. Questions need help. Let's work together on this, if we will. I want to put this up here. These are the templates, each of the templates. I don't know if you want to remove me from Spotlight. I don't know if that'll work, or Mary, thoughts? I'm gonna
Trying to figure out how. There we go.
I just did. So I don't know who can see. If that's too small to see, I can. What I can do is this. Let me do this, if you will. I'm going to do that. I'm going to exit out of that PowerPoint, and I'm going to cut and paste those templates into the chat. Anybody have any questions, comments, anything they want to share at this point?
You can either raise your hand or raise your digital hand. I know I do, because I was taking notes. I take notes the old-fashioned way. Even though, there's a lot of information. And I was like, you said every minute is an audition for the next minute. And I had not heard that before. And so in hearing that, I'm like, this makes perfect sense, especially for me in my line of work. So with the nonprofit, we're donation funded, and we do a lot of in-person fundraising. Mm-hmm. And I would always say, we have, 8 to 10 seconds to capture a person's attention to move them towards making a donation. And so there's people that host these events all across the country that for years I've traveled to. So I travel 2 to 3 weekends every month, working on getting it down to once a month. But I do travel a lot. And these events will have, 20 to 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 people at them. And we will have the opportunity to serve as an exhibitor or a vendor. When we're there, people are moving by real fast because they have their mind set on why they're there and what it is that they're looking to do. And we get to engage with them. And so I remember the first time hearing about having a 20-second or having 20 words or less. And I'm like, we got to get it down to even more or less. It's like, how can we capture their attention? And oftentimes we don't even have 8 seconds. We may have 5 seconds or 3 seconds. And so we had to come up with something that would capture people's attention. And so when you said every minute is an audition for the next minute, that spoke volumes, because for us, like when we engage with people, literally, we've narrowed it down to asking people, have they heard about the show's charity?
Right.
And they're like, the show has a charity. What do you because usually these shows, they're paying over $100 to get in, and then they're in there buying products, having all these experiences. There's all these vendors, there's all this everything. But in that moment of second, have you heard about the show's charity? It's enough to stop a person in their tracks, to make them ask, show charity, what do you mean? And that's when we have then a little bit more time to say what it is that we're doing, with the end result of requesting them to make a donation.
Right.
And, so but hearing that every minute is an audition for the next minute, that is so powerful. And so I will start with it. I got pages of stuff, but I see that Alan has his hand up. So go ahead, Alan.
You know, I want to echo what you just said, Mary. I took, you know, I'm old school as well. I took notes as well. Frank, I just want to say, you must have been in my dreams last night, brother, because people for the longest have told me, Alan, get to the point. Okay. I'm a friend of Kurt Roscoff, who brought me here, and that's it. And every time I come here, I learn a little bit more. So I just want to say, definitely want those templates. Kudos to you and your presentation, because it has allowed us to kind of step back and grasp and figure out what do we do next. Because I always say, people don't wake up in the morning and think of Alan Holmes. They think of, you know, the kids, the schools, the weather, you know, the next election, Olympics. It's just 60,000 thoughts. And I'm thinking of the 1 Minute Manager, the last book I read, about 20 years ago, and it talks about the very thing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be a guest here again. Looking forward to supporting each one of you. A great presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I will definitely get the stuff out. And what I tell people in the for-profit world, the businesses that I work with, is none of this is easy. It takes work, and you have to put the work in. I'm not asking you to add 1 + 2, a simple equation, and be done with it. It's not that simple. You know, it's putting a message together and then trying it out and maybe tweaking stuff. It's like, okay, maybe this word's not hitting. Maybe I need to change it. And over the years, I've changed mine a number of times, and probably will again and again. And it's not that I was wrong at any point in time. It's just a continual refinement. Or it might be that the audience I'm talking to changes. So, you know, but you have to put the work in. You have to take the time. And, you know, with a not-for-profit, I think this is something that obviously they can watch the recording of this, something you can sit around at a board meeting and say, okay, collectively, let's put together a message, a consistent message that we're all sharing out. So we're all kind of on the same page. So you don't feel like the onus is on you. Or maybe it's a couple messages that people come up with, but you know, you can kind of make it a team effort.
That's a good suggestion, to have your board be able to have the input for that as well. Because you know, I don't know what other people's board members do, but I try to engage with my board members quite often. So that way, as they identify things that we're moving forward in our messaging. And as I had shared it with you, Frank, and Paul at the very beginning, oftentimes nonprofits don't have fresh messaging. They're saying the same thing that they've said for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And if the messaging may be good, but it's stale, so it doesn't speak to today, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so I think, you know, having the templates, and you said you put them in the chat, Frank.
I didn't put them in. I did put them in the chat. The templates are in the chat. They're above. Well, there's 2 comments: Brian's comment, Alan's comment, and then it has a graphical version of the templates. But the 4th one up are the actual templates, and you see them.
Okay.
I can.
I do. I see them. And I don't know if anybody else sees them. I
put a heart on them. So
how many of you have already started thinking about what your 20 words or less, your 8 seconds?
Jerry Brown.
All right, Jerry, I saw you raise your hand.
That was just a thumb.
No, that's fine. I don't mind being put on the spot, because it's so interesting, because I'm at a bit of a crossroads in my career. For my private endeavors or my charitable endeavors, I was all about helping people learn more about financial literacy so they could become financially free. But I'm potentially going to turn that side hustle into a full-time job. And the other alternative is to go back and do the traditional banking, be a credit underwriter, work in the risk team, so on and so forth. That doesn't seem quite as catchy, but is definitely something that can put food on the table. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, how do I translate? Because I'm the board treasurer for the Hardy Center. They provide tutoring for inner city kids, and especially in the Linden area of Columbus, Ohio. And they do an amazing transformational job with these young students. And I'm honored I just joined the board. And we're trying to get more information out to the people, trying to get more funding, so on and so forth. So what you're telling me, Frank, and I literally screenshot it. Well, I downloaded and the screenshot that you have put on there, and it's going to really help me focus in on the things that I need to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. Once you put a little bit of work in, it just makes it easier. The refinement is easy. It's that initial, okay, what am I doing here? And I always tell people in the business world, it's okay you don't have to have one. It's okay to have a few, right? Because they don't all work in the same setting. Like, let's talk about a financial advisor. A financial advisor, if a financial advisor is talking to a group of young parents, the message is going to be different. You might be talking about saving for child education, for higher education. That message is going to be different compared to if that financial advisor is talking to a bunch of people who are early retirees or near retirees. And so you want to have different messages. And the same thing in the not-for-profit world. You want to have different messages. You want to have, you might want to have something that's more geared towards, okay, we're trying to find volunteers. Or we're trying to find board people. People are a little more committed than volunteers. So it might be a different sort of a thing. Or donors. We're looking for donors. We take dollars and keep kids out of prison. Whatever. It's something like that. And that's just my lame attempt on the fly to try and come up with something. But it can be that simple.
Definitely it can. Deborah, I saw you raised your hand as well.
I was just raising my hand to say that I had already started to figure out what I might want to say in my 20 words or less.
Okay.
Would you like to share?
And no is a perfectly acceptable answer if you're not ready. I hate putting people on the spot.
Well, I did it, so I'll take the spot. I help nonprofit managers learn how to keep their employees happy and able to serve their clients.
Okay.
Nice. Tell me more. No, I'm just well, I think that's a good opener, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I'm an amateur at this.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that I'm an amateur at it. It's just one of those things you have to kind of think on. And tinker with what we've done this in the past. If you I don't know if you can do it. Okay, here's Brian's got here. If you want to put yours and type it into the chat, Deborah, because Brian's got his. He's got 12 words. I raise money to help families overcome the ordeal of childhood cancer.
Yeah, because Frank, you did this program maybe a year ago.
Yeah, it was longer than that. Yeah,
longer than that. Yeah, so yeah. I've been using that for some time.
Yeah.
Deborah, do you mind posting it?
I'll do it right now.
She's typing.
Ever. So I really appreciate this.
Good. Yeah, I'm looking at yours, Brian. I'm like, okay, how can we make this better, right? Not that it's bad. But I raise money to help families. Almost masking the notion that it's childhood cancer, right? I help families overcome the ordeal of their greatest fear, or something like that. I don't know. Where people are kind of like, okay, what's that greatest fear? And then throwing out a statistic and saying, you know what, most studies show that this is a big thought on people's minds is this childhood cancer, and it's so complicated, and yeah, I don't know. So, and you know what? What do I know? You might say, Frank, you're full of it, and that's totally okay. But I think that's where we start to, we start to really kind of dig into these things. Okay, Deborah's got hers in here. Learn how to keep their
I
employees
put mine
happy.
in there also. I see Tony's hand is up also.
Yes, it is. A couple
Go
of
ahead.
comments.
Please.
I think.
And I want to chime in, Tony.
Go
Tony
ahead.
used to be a speaker coach.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes, that was my business way back when we met in '98.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, it's not like that stuff leaves you, right? It's like I used to practice law. I still understand. I just don't practice anymore. So
That's
I
right.
assume you have lots to chime in with here. So thank you.
I'm going to make it short and sweet. I think it's fascinating because this is the digitalization of the 30-second elevator speech, right? We have been for years in business taught to do have our 30-second elevator speech ready.
Yep.
And what I'm finding with this approach of the 20 words, 8 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds, whatever, is it's challenging for some people, like the rest of our board members, to do that, to shorten it. And so I think, like you suggest, working on it is really important. This is a different thought process for people who have been trained in sales or whatever to come up with. I think it's, as I said, we now have these short attention spans of, the digitalization aspect is everyone's attention spans are so short because we have social media and everything coming at us all the time. So that 8 seconds is absolutely on target. You have the same thing in everything I do in my digital marketing classes, the same way. You have basically an instant to get people's attention. And it's even more so in person because, as I said, people don't want to listen. They don't have attention.
Yeah.
The other comment I have, I want to comment on Mary's little 8-second spot here. I think it make it more powerful to eliminate the word help. So no, learn. You said I help nonprofit managers learn how to. Just say I help nonprofit managers keep their employees happy and better serve their clients. That's
Okay,
more impactful.
You're
right?
talking about Deborah's, not Mary's.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about Deborah's. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, thank you. All right.
Yeah. But I just think getting rid of the learn how to, that doesn't tell me anything, but it says, hey, I help nonprofit managers keep their employees happy and better serve their clients.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's word economy, right? It's like those words learn how to are just, they don't really add to it.
Right.
I was looking yours, Deborah, and I totally agree with Tony. Keep their employees happy and able to serve their clients. I wonder if there's a different way to say that that's more benefit or result oriented. Help not-for-profit managers, reduce costs or increase the engagement, something along those lines. What's the, keeping employees happy is kind of the feature. What's the benefit? What's the benefit? What's the, okay, yeah. I don't know that keeping employees happy is not, I don't want to say cliche, but I don't know.
How about, Frank, I help nonprofit managers keep their employees happy to better serve their clients. Okay. Instead of saying to be able to, just say to better serve their clients. I help nonprofit managers keep their employees happy to better serve their clients.
When we did this originally, I guess probably a couple of years ago, Frank, and my 12-word statement leads with, I raise money, because what I had been doing up to that time was really kind of beating around the bush about raising money. But that's something I want people to know, that that's what I do. and it's important that they know that I'm not just providing a service or doing. I'm raising money so that the service can be provided, and so that's a direct and specific part of the statement.
Yeah, no,
I used to have I raise money as well until I realized that I do more than raise money. And so we evolved it to we bring together resources, because sometimes it's not the person doesn't need money. The person, might need food, and I can bring together a resource to help them get food versus getting the money to go buy the food and do it like that. And so we're like, we bring together resources to help active treatment cancer patients succeed on their road to recovery.
right.
My part of it is I don't do the resources. That's the app that we have, but it takes money to run the app. So that's my part, and that's all part of the conversation.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I mean, I think that's where,
It's what feels good.
Well,
it's
yeah,
who you're talking to, your audience.
And if you're able to present it confidently.
Yeah, I used to be involved in Toastmasters, and Tony was in Toastmasters. And in Toastmasters, you do 6-minute speeches, 6-minute presentations. And for me, 6 minutes was so much more difficult than standing up and talking for an hour. Immensely, because you just, the word economy, you just had to have it down. And I think this is kind of the same thing. It's only 20 words, and a lot of people look like, oh, it's only 20 words, no big deal. True, but you really need to kind of nitpick those, as Tony did with Deborah's, taking out the learn how to. And I was looking at it again, Deborah, and it's like, rather than I help not-for-profit managers, you could say I empower or something along those lines, and just kind of add some oomph to it.
Yeah.
But this is an ongoing work in progress that, it's great. I think that people have taken a stab at it. But you can kind of continue to work it, continue to wordsmith it and make it more and more powerful. And you might come up with something that's totally great. And then you're listening to somebody else do theirs and like, I got to steal that, right? I got to do what they do. But in my words. So let's look at some others here. Mary, do you mind if we move beyond you and go to some other people?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Paul, I help people with great community interests, but limited resources. Okay. I help people. Something to say, Susan? Just jump in.
I have a question.
Yep.
In my own business, I seldom use the word I because I want to play bigger. I use the word
Thank
we.
you.
And so what's your point of view there?
I like it. I mean, it's because that is, you are playing bigger, right? You're creating the impression that it's just not you. Mm-hmm. It's not, you with a taco truck. It's a whole restaurant, right? I mean, however you want to. So, but I think it certainly depends upon who the person is. I mean, if you're somebody who is a professional speaker or a trainer, and it truly is you, then I works because they want you. But if it's something where it's actually a business or a whole organization, then we can be more appropriate. Anyhow,
that's a great question or thought process, Susan, by the way.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. We help people with great community interests. Limited resources.
While you're reading, Frank, something that I have the privilege of doing
I can't
training.
read and listen, so go ahead.
Oh, so I have the privilege of doing some trainings to people that are in, of course, the hair and beauty space and some others. And in speaking with them, I was explaining to them, I said, you have to understand that you could be the best salesperson, you can be the best barber, the best stylist, the best makeup artist, the best nail tech in the world. but if you do not understand what motivates people to buy, then you may be literally up against a wall. Because if you're, it's kind of like what, one of the things, step number 3, I wrote down, speak in a way that the listener will hear. And so when we're doing these, when we're creating these 20-second or 20 words are for our 8-second pitches, that's something that, you know, maybe we should take it into consideration as well, that we speak in such a way that the person or people that we're speaking to will hear.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to copy in the slides here so you guys can have them.
Because would it be safe to say that our 8-second speech, so it used to be like our elevator pitch, but our 8-second introduction should move the person who hears to want to ask a question? Is it, you know, like, because then I asked that after reading, I help people with great community interests, but limited resources bring the two together. That makes, I literally want to know more, because like when you say great community interests, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, would it be safe to say that our 8 seconds should lead a person to want to ask another question?
Yeah, I think with respect to Paul's, you know, I help, again, I empower people, people with great community interests. I wonder if there's a 2 or 3 word phrase that encompasses people with great community interest. I don't know that I know what that means.
Well, the thing is that they have, well, I guess explaining it, and thank you, Mary, looking for somebody to ask the question, because the great community interest, they have a high interest in the community, but they don't have the resources to participate the way they would like to.
Okay.
Whether it's financial or time.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I empower people who want to help others find the resources to do so. Something along that nature. Because I agree with you. I don't understand what great community interest means. I'm on the same page as you, Frank.
Yeah.
What about I empower people who want to give back to the community, but have limited resources, bring the two together?
Yeah, I like that.
Because when we say give back, people understand what give back to the community is on a very high level. And then you can then ask, oh, in what ways do you give back to the community?
Well, empower people who want to give back to the community.
But have limited, but I empower people who have a desire to give back to the community, but limited resources, bring the two together.
Yeah, I guess I was going to go with something like I empower generous people to have the biggest impacts in their community. I'm just assuming everyone's got limited resources, Paul, right? I mean, I do. Everyone does. So I'm just
well, what I'm trying to do is really open it up, because yes, you have generous people, but some people just don't give back to the community because they have nothing. They're just trying to put food on the table.
Yeah, no, I get it. And again, these things are not easy. They're They're not easy, but that's where you start with your 20 words or 25 words, and you just start beating it up. And okay, how can it be better? How can it be better? So and I do it with mine. I'll do my 8 seconds to somebody, and I'll get a look from them like I'm showing a dog a card trick. I'm like, okay, something's missing here. So I gotta tweak. So
as I was reading that, I stumbled over but limited resources. As you said, and you said it, Frank, we all have limited resources. I mean, I don't know anybody that has unlimited resources.
Yep.
So, could it be safe that I empower people who want to give back to the community do so?
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues I think is that there are a lot of us, and I'm obviously talking to the group, that give to a lot of places, but we might be down to just donating $10 at a time, where we would really like to give them 50. So it's a prioritization. Did I go away?
No, well, for me, I'm thinking, because
okay.
You're saying from what you said. So if a person if a person has limited resources, you work with people that has limited resources, and they still have a desire to want to give back to the community. So maybe it's reevaluation of the resources that they have, where, oh, I normally give $10, but I want to give 50. And so so based off of what you said, confuses me with what you wrote.
Oh, well, okay, take it one step further, and this is where it gets way, I think, out of the words, was to be able to collaborate together so that we can build resources, and you might be giving to a nonprofit that I never heard of, but because we're collaborating and raising mutual funds, if you will, that you would be giving to your nonprofit interest, and then I would be giving to my nonprofit interest. So we're collaborating, but we're not competing. And that's one of the things that I've had problems with. Even the Walk MS that Judy and I did in January was we're competing for funds, and people very graciously are donating to us, but because of that, they weren't able to give to another interest that they have.
Well, that's true for all of us, isn't it? Aren't we all choosing?
Well, that's what I have through a networking tool, have the ability to really expand on that, I think. And so that's what I would talk about that.
So when it comes to the nonprofit space, and this has been known for years, traditionally nonprofits do not work together. When it comes down to who's gonna be the recipient of the funds, it just is what it is. Yeah, and
yeah,
well, and through the years, you know, I can promote another nonprofit. I have no problem. I'll fundraise for another nonprofit. Don't have a problem, because I see beyond the money to the mission. And when you, as nonprofits, oftentimes we find ourselves caught up in, you know, I want to do this event, but somebody else might get some money, and it comes down to the money thing. And I'm like, if ever we as nonprofits can get beyond the money to really the mission, if the mission is strong and it's a mission that impacts the masses, then the people will come. The money will come. It will. But if we focus on the money, then you're always chasing the dollar. And that's something that we've got to get beyond. I see you shaking your head. Dean, are you proud of me? I've grown. Dean has been along on my journey, so he knows.
You're doing good. You're doing good.
Thank you. Okay. I do want to go back, Frank, because we started with Deborah, but we never addressed her. So can we reread hers and talk about hers?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah. To answer Tony's question, the link is takes you to the article that I referenced. So Kurt went and found it. So doing my work for me. Thanks, Kurt. All right, got to go up and.
Oh, we did talk about yours, Deborah. Yours is the nonprofit managers learn how to keep their employees happy and able to serve their clients. So we did.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. Do we have anybody else's?
We talked about Paul's. Dean's is here. I mentor not-for-profit.
There you go.
I mentor not-for-profit organizations to reach their pinnacles of success through improved operations, expand mission impact.
After your presentation, Frank, I recognize that this has several buzzwords.
Yeah.
That probably the general public wouldn't understand. They're very nonprofit specific.
Yeah. Well, what jumps out at me is I again, word economy. I mentor not-for-profits. I don't think you need to use the word organizations because, not-for-profits by their definition. I help not-for-profits reach their pinnacles of success. I don't really know what that, but that might be good. It might be bad.
Those in the nonprofit space would be, their ears would tingle by hearing that.
Okay.
Because we understand that what the pinnacles of success, we understand what that means. Reaching our highest height, our best, our, the best that it can be.
Yeah.
So.
Nobody wants to hear this now, but next time we do this, I should learn how to use the dry erase board so I could cut and paste that and we could just pick at it live and make a change and then see how it flows. I meant to reach, through improved operation.
I'm doing the old school method of strike and insert.
Yeah, no, that works too. Yeah, whatever works for us. Improved operation and expanded mission impact. I'm just wondering if there's improved operation is kind of what's the benefit? What's the thing that just makes somebody lean in and say, okay, tell me more?
Efficiency, effectiveness.
Yeah. More the result, right? Improved. I mean, I know improved operation is a result, but it's what does that mean? Is there another meaning to that? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Margin.
Now.
So I see the benefit as improved operations and expanded mission impact, because that's what, I would well, as we continue to grow, improved operations is huge for like I said, for those that are in, and when I say in the nonprofit space, I'm talking that we are doing the work of the nonprofit, not like, because there's different degrees, whether it's a board member may not do the work of the nonprofit. They support the nonprofit, but they aren't the hands-on. And so to have someone to be able to mentor the nonprofit to have improved operations is huge. And then being able to have an expanded mission impact that also is huge. I remember So if I had known Dean when I first started COC, then we probably would not have gone the route of being having a mission of helping breast cancer patients succeed on their road to recovery through awareness, emotional support, and financial assistance. Because it was like, what about the person that has a different cancer? So instead of it taking us 4 months to come to that realization, we probably would have came to that realization much sooner to change our mission to helping active treatment cancer patients succeed on their road to recovery. So it's expanded the mission hugely. And then once the revelation came again, now we're like, okay, wait a minute. We are bringing together resources to help active treatment cancer patients succeed on their road to recovery.
Right.
And so having, if Dean had been there in my life 18 years ago, just saying. So somebody that those of us that do the work of the nonprofit, we understand that differently than someone who doesn't.
Okay. Yeah. Anyhow, I think the bottom line for all of this is it's something that you need to work on. You need to play with. And Dean kind of pointed it out. You get the index card and you just write it out on an index card. And the only reason I say that is you don't, or you can put it on a phone. You can just put it in and tweak it. I have a series of 1-minute podcasts that I do, and they're all written out and I narrated them. But I found that writing them and speaking them are two entirely different things, because there are times where you write something and your tongue just cannot do it. It just can't do it. And so you'll find the same thing with these 20 words. It's like, yeah, it flows. It seems to, fit on that index card or, but how does it sound? And so you just need to, again, practice. So I'll defer back to you, Brian. I know that there are people here who haven't gotten a chance to chime in and introduce themselves. I don't know if you want to do that quickly with the time remaining.
Well, anyone that has anything to say, in particular at this point, I'd love to hear if there are a key takeaway, something that has been created today that causes you to make a commitment to take action in the future.
I think I'll chime in for that because it was really good. I learned a lot and was able to put some stuff together that I hadn't even thought about before. So I think it compressed probably a 3-month work activity for me down to an hour and a half.
Good.
And yeah, I feel really good about today's meeting.
I'll chime in as well, because I've been sitting here and didn't contribute anything to the notes, because I started a new job about 30 days ago, and so I'm completely rethinking how do I put what I've done with what I'm doing now, and thinking forward. Really, it's what do I want to be known for? And so I think this was a great thought process as to how do I say what I do, but maybe even go beyond the job per se, and what's my impact overall.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good use of this. We can use these to define our businesses. We can use them to define our not-for-profits. We can use them to define our roles in the businesses that we're in. I like that. So
I do see that I went back through the chat. Susan shared hers, that what she does is her business provides veterinary care for pets of senior citizens, low-income senior citizens. And then I also see that Michael Clark I'm a cruise counselor and I teach nonprofits how to facilitate fundraiser cruises and events.
that's good.
So both of those are direct, short, simple, to the point. And I will say, yes, Susan, if you have a pet, you understand it. I had it. I did. And if you live alone and have a pet, you understand it. I understand it.
And Michael, my commentary on yours would be, you don't have to say I'm a cruise counsel. Just say I teach not-for-profits how to facilitate fundraising, fundraiser cruises and events. Or maybe it's I teach not-for-profits how to create donor dollars from fun. I don't know, something that really kind of gets people leaning in. It's like, oh, really? How do you do that? Well, it's fundraising cruises. I guess part of what I advocate is you almost want to have a little bit of a mystery with these things. It's a little bit of a mystery, but that's just my own 2 cents on it. So, all right, we're almost out of time.
I help nonprofits raise money on the water.
There you go.
There you go. Huh? How do you do that?
By walking on water. Yeah, I help not-for-profit by walking on water.
May I share something real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to say this was just excellent. I was just kind of in the background because I'm new to this, and I thank you, Mary, for inviting me. It's always been difficult to try to say what I do because people get me confused with a travel agent, and that's what I'm not. So, but thanks for the feedback on that.
Yeah. I will tell you next month, which will be August 9th, the program is how not-for-profits can capitalize on social media. That's what we have coming. That's what we have coming in August. And September, we are getting back to, bringing Sabrina on. Sabrina Walker is going to be back on in September. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Just a little more about next month, so please help spread the word. Dr. Ikena Finch, she is the author of some incredible books dealing with social media. She's been part of the Meta and Facebook expansion behind social media, and she just received the award for Social Media Wizard of the Year. And so she is very knowledgeable, and she's excited about what she's going to bring, because a lot of time nonprofits do not understand the power of social media in securing donors, and so she's excited about bringing that information.
And I will tell you, this program we're going to upload it to YouTube. There's a channel out there called the Charitable Roundtable. If you go to that channel, you can see the past, the relative recent past programs, but this will probably be up within an hour or two. So it happens that quickly.
I want to thank you so much for what I've learned and what I'm now going to do.
Well, you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Susan.
I'm going to ask for some help. So I don't have a nonprofit. I'm working on it, and I'm building a team. I am going through the process of learning, listening, asking questions, and learning. I would like to have a referral connection to someone at Life Care Alliance. I'd like to ask questions to someone there. So if you have a connection to someone at Life Care Alliance, I'd appreciate the referral.
Okay.
Do you know in what degree? Like, do you want somebody that just is an employee, or do you want somebody that's a high-level employee? Because I could put you in touch with Tom.
Okay, so briefly, my veterinarian got a call from Life Care Alliance. They had a senior whose pet needed veterinary care. Life Care Alliance sent my vet a check. So do they have a mechanism for providing veterinary care to seniors? What can they teach me about that?
Okay.
I
know who you need.
Yeah, I would just put her in contact, and she can work up the food chain or down the food chain.
I know the exact person that you need.
Okay.
I'll send you the information.
All right.
She reached out to me, so, and it's ironic. So
all right,
I got you.
Susan, do you know Barry Richardson?
Yeah.
No. He does house call veterinary work. I don't know if he's somebody of interest. So I can get you information on him if you need him.
I'll let you know. I want to hit Care Alliance first.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Thanks, Frank.
I know people, so
Yeah, I know
right.
you do.
I'm gonna stop recording here.